If you've ever worked a night shift, a warehouse, a gas station, a hospital, a factory floor at 3 a.m., when the whole building goes quiet except for the hum of the vending machines, you know there's a specific kind of fear that comes with it. It's not just being alone, it's the feeling that you're not. These are 4 stories, sent in by people who worked the graveyard shift and never looked at an empty building the same way again. I got the job at the distribution warehouse the summer after I dropped out of community college. Money was decent, hours were terrible, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights a week. My job was simple: restock pallets, run the forklift, keep the inventory logs updated. For the first 2 months, nothing weird happened. The warehouse was massive, maybe 200,000 square feet, mostly empty at night, except for me and one other guy, Dennis, who worked the opposite end of the floor doing quality checks. The thing about a warehouse that big at night is the sound. Metal shelving contracts and expands with temperature changes, and it makes these long, low groaning noises that echo down the aisles. I got used to it. What I didn't get used to was the footsteps. It started in October. I was up on the 3rd level of shelving, using the cherry picker to grab a pallet, when I heard someone walking below me. Slow, deliberate steps on the concrete. I figured it was Dennis, so I called down. No answer. I looked over the edge of the platform. Nothing. Just rows of shelving disappearing into the dark. I radioed Dennis. He was on the other side of the building. Hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Over the next few weeks, it kept happening. Always when I was alone. Always on that same aisle. Aisle 14 near the back wall, where the oldest inventory sat. Stuff that hadn't moved in years. The footsteps would start slow, then stop right below wherever I was standing. Never any further. Never any closer either. No matter how long I waited. I mentioned it to Dennis one night during our lunch break. He got quiet. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. Before I started, there had been another guy on my shift. I'll call him Marcus. Marcus worked aisle 14 almost exclusively. One night, according to Dennis, Marcus radioed in saying he'd found something wrong with the pallets back there. Said the boxes were stacked differently than the system showed, like someone had rearranged an entire section overnight. Building was locked. Alarm never tripped. No other employees scheduled. Marcus never showed up for his next shift. I asked Dennis if he ever checked aisle 14 himself. He said he used to. Then he said something that stuck with me. I stopped going down that aisle when I realized the footsteps only happen when somebody's up on the shelving. Like whatever it is, it's not walking around down there. It's waiting for you to be somewhere it can't reach. I requested a transfer to day shift 2 weeks later. Last I heard, the warehouse still can't keep anyone on that section for more than a few months at a time. I worked security for a mid-size office building downtown, 12 floors, mostly insurance companies and a couple of law firms. My job was simple. Sit in the lobby booth from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., monitor 16 camera feeds, do a walking patrol every 2 hours. Boring job, perfect for someone like me who wanted quiet hours to study for the bar exam. About 4 months in, I was doing my usual scan of the monitors around 2 a.m. when I noticed something on camera 7, the 9th floor hallway. A woman standing at the far end, facing away from the camera, completely still. We didn't have any night cleaning crew scheduled that night. I'd checked the log. I zoomed in. The woman was wearing what looked like business attire. Dark blazer, hair down, not moving at all. Not even the slight sway you'd expect from someone just standing. I picked up the radio to call it in. And when I looked back at the monitor, she was gone. Not walked out of frame, gone. gone between one glance and the next, maybe 2 seconds. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Same camera, same spot. This time, I didn't look away. I watched the feed for a full 3 minutes. She never moved. Then on the recording, because I went back afterward and pulled the footage, there's a frame where she turns her head very slightly toward the camera, and directly after that frame, she's just not there, not faded out, not walked away. The frame cuts from her presence to empty hallway with no transition, like a splice in a piece of film. I brought it to my supervisor. Instead of thinking I was losing it, he got quiet and told me Camera 7 had a reputation. Guards before me had reported similar things. Always the same time window. Always the 9th floor. Always a woman who never moved, and then simply wasn't there anymore. He told me something else, almost as an afterthought, like he hoped I wouldn't ask a follow-up. 15 years earlier, before the building was renovated, a woman working late on the 9th floor had a medical emergency after everyone else had gone home. Nobody found her until the cleaning crew came in. The next morning, I stopped watching Camera 7 directly during that window. I'd glance at it, then look away on purpose. But some nights, right around 2 a.m., I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision on that monitor. And I made a point of never confirming what it was. I was a CNA on the overnight shift at a long-term care facility for about a year and a half. 12-hour shifts, 7 to 7. Most nights were routine. Room 214 was a private room at the end of the East Wing, occupied by a resident named Mr. Alderman. Late 80s, mostly nonverbal due to advanced dementia. Sweet man, according to the day staff. About 6 months into the job, I started noticing that his call light would go off at almost exactly the same time every night, 3:14 a.m. Not close to it. Exactly. I'd go in, and he'd be lying there, sometimes with his eyes open, staring at the corner of the ceiling near the door. And he'd say the same thing every single night, in a voice that sounded nothing like his normal speaking voice. Tell her I'm not ready yet. No family members named her that anyone knew of. His wife had passed away nearly 20 years earlier. Her name was Doris. One night, out of curiosity, and probably poor judgment, I asked him directly. Not ready for who? He turned his head very slowly toward me, something he almost never did, and just stared for what felt like a full minute, completely silent. Then he said, in that same wrong-sounding voice, "She doesn't like it when you ask." This continued for another 2 months. Same time, same phrase, same request not to ask questions. Then one night, the call light didn't go off at 3:14. It went off at 3:12, 2 minutes early, the first deviation in 8 months. When I walked in, he was sitting up, which he physically should not have been capable of doing without assistance. And he looked directly at me, fully lucid, in a way I'd never seen him before. "She's here now." Then he lay back down and closed his eyes. He passed away peacefully in his sleep 3 nights later. At 3:14 a.m. exactly, according to the time logged by the nurse who found him. I drove a tow truck for a company that had a contract with the state to handle overnight highway recoveries. Dispatch would radio a job to me. I'd drive out, hook up the vehicle, bring it back. Standard stuff, mostly. About 8 months into the job, dispatch called in a job around 1 a.m. A vehicle reported stalled on the shoulder near mile marker 41, a stretch with almost no lighting and no cell service. I drove out, found the car exactly where they said. A sedan pulled halfway onto the gravel shoulder. Hazards not even on. No driver in sight. I hooked it up anyway. About 10 minutes into the drive, my radio crackled with dispatch traffic. Except it wasn't dispatch. It was a voice. Male. Calm. Giving coordinates and a vehicle description that matched almost word for word the car I currently had on my hook. Except the incident time the voice gave was 3 hours in the future. I radioed my actual dispatcher to confirm nothing weird was happening on their end. She said she hadn't sent any additional traffic, hadn't heard anything unusual come through the shared channel. I described what I'd heard. Long pause. Then she told me, carefully, that the channel I described picking it up on wasn't a channel we used. It was a decommissioned frequency, taken out of service 2 years earlier, after a fatal multi-vehicle accident on that same stretch of highway. Mile marker 41. 3 people killed, including the driver of a stalled sedan that nobody responded to in time, because the original call got lost in a dispatch error. I finished the tow. I never took another overnight job on that stretch of highway again. To this day, I don't know if I imagined the transmission, if it was some kind of bizarre radio interference or something else entirely. I just know I don't want to find out twice. If you work or have worked a night shift and something happened that you still can't explain, I want to hear about it. Send your story to the link in the description, and it might be featured in a future video. If tonight's stories kept you looking over your shoulder, hit subscribe. There are a lot more of these coming.